Hey guys, I am so excited to be in our final week of the conversation of community. It has been so much fun navigating this idea with you, and I am thrilled to where we're going to land the plane today. My hope for you is that you're going to have some clarity on the idea of what does it look like to put some healthy boundaries in place in some relationships you have. My hope is that when you're done, you're able to think about those things, maybe have some action steps in place of what does it mean to have real, authentic relationships that are good for you and they protect you, and hopefully they prevent even harm from you. If you're in a home gathering, my hope is that you guys are getting some great conversations at the end. And if you guys are checking this out by yourself or maybe with some roommates or some friends in your dorm, in your apartment, my hope is it'll move from your head to your heart, lead to some action steps of you finding some community that is healthy and beneficial to you. I'm excited where we're going to go. It's going to be a fun time together.
lost, but he brought me in. Oh, his love for me. Oh, his love for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Free at last, he has ransomed me. His grace runs deep. While I was a slave to sin, Jesus died for me. Yes, he died for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, it's free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am who you say I am. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am.
Hey guys, welcome back. I am so excited that we are here in our final part of the conversation we've been having around community. My name is Justin Wolk, and I'm the young adults pastor at North Metro Church, and I have loved being able to engage with you guys around this conversation. We've kind of unpacked this big idea called community these last few weeks, and today we're going to try to land the plane a little bit into something that I'd love to talk about. It's a very healthy aspect of it. You see, in regards to community, we have to talk about a lot of things. Why do we need it? What's it look like in the roles, the relationships that we have? What's it look like in regards to our role? And for the last 3 weeks, we have unpacked all of those things. And so I would love to encourage you or challenge you, if you're new with us, I'd love for you to go back and watch those or listen to those and engage with those. Some crucial stuff we kind of unpacked. There's some science in there about why we were created for community and how true that is for our health. We unpacked the idea of some of the expectations we put on people. We also unpacked some of the simple things in regards to our role. And to be honest with you, Jesus himself kind of set this standard. He just said, treat others how you want to be treated. That came out of his mouth, and that's kind of where we landed last week. And so that's just kind of a quick recap. Again, there's a lot there that we unpacked these last 3 weeks. So if you're new with us, or maybe you just need a refresher, I'd love for you to go back and watch those. But we're going to kind of land the plane in a little bit of a direction today that I don't think enough people talk about because there are some things in regards to our friendships, there are some things in regards to our relationships that can be a little dangerous, or it can be a little, it can take away some benefit from who we are. And so today I just want to have a simple conversation around this idea that I love to call wisdom and boundaries. Because the thing is that we do have some people in our life that tend to be people that can bring a toxic nature in the relationship. They can tend to make things a little bit about themselves. They can tend to make some things hard. They can tend to make some things even, I would argue, sometimes a little bit dangerous. And I'm hoping that's not the case for you. I'm hoping no one comes to mind when I say that. But in regards to our health and in regards to our future stories, or maybe the future stories of others, there has to be some wisdom and boundaries in regards to relationships. So to kind of set that off, I just want to be honest with you guys. I don't know if you know this about me. I'm a big football fan. I love football. I love college football a little bit more than I love the pros, but I do love the pros as well. And one of the things I love about football, and before I tell you this, please do not misconstrue me. Don't misread me. Don't be like, wow, what kind of pastor are you? You'll understand in a minute where I'm going. But one of the things I love in football is when a player is hit out of bounds. Now, I know that at first that sounds so terrible. It's like, wow, what kind of person are you? But I promise you, I'm going somewhere with this. I really do like watching someone get hit out of bounds because there's so much drama that happens in that moment. The moment a player gets hit out of bounds, I mean, they tend to throw the flag higher than they normally do. The ref's trying to run in there. Depending on where the hit occurs, you see one of the benches of players just overreact. It's unbelievable, and people are jumping and screaming, and sometimes the player that got hit jumps up really quick, and man, their helmets are kind of face to face with each other, and they're jawing back and forth. There's so much drama, and there's so much emotion when a player gets hit out of bounds. Now, again, I want to clarify, I do not in any way like someone getting hurt or having a cheap shot on them. What I like about it is that it's so clear. It is so clear that a foul has occurred. It is so clear that something went wrong. Most of the time, sometimes they have to question, was he out or was he? But most of the time, it is so clear that something wrong has occurred. Something wrong has taken place, and it has caused a pain or it has caused an issue for another person. That's why I like it, because it's one of the clearest calls in football. And I actually think something like that is possible for us in our lives in regards to our relationships and our friendships. But I think we don't operate in it enough. I think that there are some clear boundaries, there are some clear lines for us, but I think that we don't choose to operate in them enough, and I think that it's been detrimental to us. I think that if we could adhere and follow some of those boundaries or some of the out of bounds, we may be a little bit healthier. Because here's what tends to happen. We tend to have some people who do something wrong. Maybe they kind of break our trust a little bit, or they do take advantage of us, and we tend to fall in one of two camps in regards to this. Rather than just knowing what that clear boundary is, we tend to fall in one of two camps. We do one of the following. We either just call it quits, or we deny that anything is wrong. And here's what I mean by that. We tend to just call it quits. Someone does something wrong. Maybe they do tell a little bit of a white lie. And I'm not saying lying to your friends is at all healthy at all, but maybe it's just a little bit because they were late and so they said they slept late or something. I don't know. But we tend to kind of overreact. Someone does something a little bit wrong and we're done. We're done with the relationship. I'm out. I can't trust you, blah, blah, blah. And the truth is somehow we forgot the fact that people aren't perfect. And so we bail way too quickly. We just call it quits and we bail on the relationship. I love this quote by Pastor Craig Rochelle. He's a pastor out in Oklahoma of Life Church. He's done an unbelievable job just in what's going on with the church out there. I love this truth that he helps us land on today. He says this thing where he says, you meet friends by chance and you deepen them by choice. You meet friends by chance and you deepen them by choice. And one of the ways we can do that is when someone wrongs us. Maybe someone shows up late, or maybe someone did forget your birthday, your anniversary. That doesn't mean that they're terrible people. Maybe their schedule was packed. Maybe they're exhausted. Maybe their kid kept them up, or maybe that class is wearing them down. We don't know. But we shouldn't bail so quickly. We can deepen our relationships by choice because they came to us by chance. And so I love that. And maybe some of us, we call it quits a little too quickly. But then there's also that other side. There's that other side where, as a pastor, I can tell you this one probably bothers me a little bit more. I've had countless stories from some of you, even coming to my office. I've had some stories from college students and young adults, even older adults, on the effects of what their friendships and their relationships have been doing to them. And we tend to live in that camp that we deny that anything's wrong. And we have a person or multiple persons in our life that are habitually harming us or hurting us or emotionally causing us distress. And somehow we're oblivious to this. I'm not a doctor, but I want to lean in and somehow do a brain scan and see if that thing is working because it's so obvious to everyone else what's going on, but for some reason you're missing it. And it tends to be that you're emotionally invested, you're emotionally connected, and so it's clouding your judgment a little bit when everyone else knows this person's taking advantage of you. And see, there's a big difference between maybe being late or forgetting an anniversary or a birthday or a little white lie. And I'm trying to be really careful with that because I in no way think it's wise to lie to your friends. But we have those people that actually harm us. We have people that do take advantage of us, that steal from us, that they don't tell white lies. They lie about everything, where they've been, who they've been with. Maybe they're trashing you on social media. They're ruining your reputation. I don't know, but we have some people in our life that they are toxic, they are unhealthy, and comes a time when we need to do something about that rather than denying it or enabling bad behavior to go on. And just to simply put it this way, when it comes to friendships and community, you have to set clear boundaries. You've got to know what's out of bounds. And here's the thing, that's going to look a little bit different for all of us. It's not always going to be the same thing, but there are some clear-cut cookie cutter things that can apply to every single human on how in regards to be treated as a friend. And to kind of unpack a little bit of what that looks like and a little bit unpack to why that's important today, I want us to go back again to some of the scriptures. I want us to go back to some of the things we see in the Old Testament and some things again in the New Testament. And it's been fun throughout this conversation and community to go back to King Solomon. He's so wise. Again, I try to tell you often that's not just a biblical truth. Many historians and other people will point to his influence on the modern day and what he did. And again, in that collection of writings he wrote called Proverbs, it's just these little statements to live by, these things for us to consider for a healthy life. He actually writes something in regards to the idea of friendship and the people that we're choosing to do life with. And look at what he says. He says this in Proverbs 12. He says, the righteous choose their friends carefully. Not happenstance, not just like in the wind, but carefully they choose their friends. But the way of the wicked leads them astray. And again, I love how Solomon does this. I love how he does these play on words where he doesn't just necessarily equate the one with the other. Look at what he does in regards to his wordplay. He says here that the righteous, they choose. They're like, hey, you know what? I've heard some things or I've seen some things and I don't know if that's the best friendship route for me to go. Or it's just, hey, I know a little bit about the character and I don't know. I'm going to choose very carefully of who I'm doing life with. But he says, but the wicked it's not even about choosing. They're just led astray. They're just led down the wrong road. They're just going to have a snowball of decisions and choices that are going to continually lead to bad habits. Astray means to go away from what is right. Astray means to go away from what is healthy. So he's saying, hey, listen, if you're righteous, if you've got some wisdom in you, you're going to choose these people who you're doing life with. Or if you're not really thinking about it, I would even argue if you are an enabler, you're going to be going astray quickly, and you're going to see how these decisions are going to begin to pile up, and they're going to have emotional weight behind you. And I love that he's just that blatant with it. I love he's putting it out there, letting us know, hey, I can tell you where you're headed in regards to these friendships like we've talked about before. And then we fast forward a little bit. We fast forward into, we get into finally after BC, and we see Paul show up. I don't know how much you know about Paul. Paul was not always a Jesus follower. He actually, at one point, his whole profession was to wipe out the communities of Christians. He would go from town and village and literally he would destroy them. That was what he did. And he has an encounter with the resurrected Jesus, and it changes his entire life and it changes his whole future. And so he begins writing to community of believers. He actually would start some churches, which was a community of believers, and he starts writing to them, and he tells them something. And we're roughly a little over 1,000-ish years removed from Solomon in this moment. And I feel like he's picking up a little bit on what Solomon kind of started. And he's writing to a group of Christians in a city called Corinth. Now, see, Corinth is very, very affluent. I mean, they are a big deal. They're probably like a modern day Paris, to be honest with you. And they have such prestige around them. And what's happened is the Christians, they're there, they've encountered this truth about Jesus, and they're doing their community, and they're living in life together. But the culture of Corinth is starting to have, it's permeating a little bit through the church. And he just wants to talk about that. Just like how Solomon said, hey, the wicked are going to be led astray, Paul has something to tell this church of Corinth. And just look at what he's saying in regards to, hey, this is who you are and who you should be, but this is some things that are going on in regards to culture. Check out what he says. He says, do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. Bad company corrupts good character. Who you're letting in, who you're trusting, who you're letting to speak into, those decisions that they're making, they are shaping your reputation. They are shaping what you believe. They are shaping the future that you have in mind. And this is a big deal to Paul, because Paul, like I believes that if you are a Jesus follower, there has to be a level, a standard of the way we live, the way we treat people, the way we do things. It should make people want to pause and lean in. Even if people have an issue with the resurrection, have an issue with believing, hey, you believe that Jesus died and then he rose again. I can't wrap my mind around that. I get how people could have an issue with that, but people should never have an issue with how we live our lives or how we treat other people. And Paul is saying, hey, this culture is getting in a little bit, and you might want to be wise. You might want to know who you're doing life with, and you might want to know a little bit of what's going to happen if you continue down this road. It's such an important message, not only for them, but for us. And so when we think about the ideas of our friendships, we have to have boundaries. We've got to say, hey, this is the out of bounds line. If this occurs, I know that there's a flag in play. I know that there's a warning right there going on. Something has to change, or something has to happen. If you go back to the football analogy for a second, and the idea that bad company corrupts good character, you've got to think about this idea. If someone is repeatedly hit out of bounds, there's a likelihood that they're going to be injured. So that's obvious. But there's also going to be this emotional response that we're possibly the one that keeps getting hit out of bounds might become one that hits out of bounds. They're so frustrated, they're angry. They're just like, hey, they do it, so why can't I do it? Well, the ref didn't call it on that time, so maybe I'll get away with it. And it tends to become a habit that they have formed. So we have to understand that boundaries exist for a reason. Boundaries exist in sports. Boundaries exist in finances. Boundaries exist in health. Why would they not exist in our relationships and our friendships in regards to community? And when I think of boundaries, I think it's the simple way to say it like this. I think the boundaries with friends are like friends themselves. They protect what is healthy and they point out what is harmful. If you have some great relationships, some great friendships, some great community in your life, there are probably people that protect you and they probably point out things that would harm you. That's the same role of boundaries. And like I said earlier, I think for some of us, some of those could look a little bit different for all of us. I think there are some things that are kind of universal, but depending on some life stage or some background, there might be some things for you that are a little bit different for me, and I think that's okay. I think it's okay to know the standards we're going to hold to people. So let me ask you, in light of what Solomon said, and in light of what Paul said, let's just ask the obvious question: who do you befriend carefully, and who do you unfriend wisely? Who do you befriend carefully, and who do you unfriend wisely? And again, some of those things are going to look a little bit different, but I think there are some things that are universal. So we're going to talk about a few things here that are some great variables for us to have in play that I think they're going to help us be able to unpack this. And so let's look at the first one: careful friend, or how to unfriend, wise counsel. I hope you have some wise counsel in your life. And if you don't have some wise counsel of friends, I would hope maybe you have a wise counsel of maybe some parents or some guardians or some grandparents, a teacher, a mentor. I hope there's someone in your life that is further down the road from you, a little bit more experienced than you, that you can go and seek their advice on. Ask them, hey, so-and-so wants to go out. Hey, so-and-so wants to hang out. So-and-so wants to come over. What do you think about that? This is not a silly thing. They tend to be wise. I don't know about you, but growing up, my mom was always really good at knowing, I don't think you should be hanging out with him. For some reason, she was always spot on with that. I would assume the same is probably similar for you. Seek some wise counsel. What do they think about this friendship? What do they think about this relationship? They may have already come to you and said, hey, I'm not liking the way they treat you. I'm not liking the things that they do. You might want to make sure you're leaning into that and going, hey, I know, regardless of anything, I know that you are always looking out for my best interest. I should probably consider what you're saying. And it may be hard to hear because you may right now be thinking about a current relationship or friendship or circumstance that you're in, and you know that your mom and your dad and so-and-so and your best friend or whomever don't like them, and you've been trying to defend and justify them. You might want to listen to wise counsel on that one because it's going to protect you in the future. Another way that we can be a careful friend or have careful friends, or we can unfriend, is this idea of inner circle versus the peripheral. Here's the thing. We live in a time where we think that having an inner circle or having a close group of friends seems cliquish or elitist. It's not. It's not at all. It's actually very, very wise. Listen to me. As an extrovert, I love relationships. I really do. But listen to me. You cannot be friends with everyone. It's not possible. It is not timely. It's not going to happen on your calendar, and it will emotionally drain you. You cannot be friends with everyone. Especially you can't be best friends with everyone. And so I'm begging you, I'm telling you, you need to have an inner circle versus the peripheral. And here's how an easy way we can justify this. If you ever need to use Jesus as an excuse, go ahead. I don't know how much you know about Jesus' ministry, but here's just kind of a simple breakdown. At one point, he had thousands of people following him. Thousands. I mean, go look at some of the miracles he pulled off. We read that there are 4,000, 5,000 people present. Depending on where he was going from city to city, hundreds of those would continue to follow him. Some would just pop up because he was visiting their city. But he would have hundreds that would stay with him. But then if you look in the scriptures, he only had 12 people that he kept close to him all the time. He had 12 guys that he hand chose to follow him. But if you do a little bit of digging in Sunday school classes, you may remember this or know this. There were 3 in the 12 that he trusted the most. And there's actually this one story where he takes those 3 to this unbelievable moment on top of a mountain. And if you read in the scriptures, it's called the Transfiguration, and I'm not going to break down the whole story for you. But essentially, I want you to just picture this for a second. Jesus comes down the mountain with the 3. The 9 are at the bottom of the mountain. The 9, or the 8 in that case, they're waking up and they're going, wait, where'd you guys go? What did you do? And they're like, man, Jesus just did something that was unbelievable. We had this unbelievable moment where we saw this thing. And they probably are like, well, why didn't we get to go? But we don't read about that in the scriptures because I think Jesus was very clear. Hey, I've got you guys as my 12, but I have these 3 that I clearly trust. You can have an inner circle. Just because they're your colleague, just because they're a classmate, just because they're a friend of your roommates does not mean that you've got to bring them in and trust them with everything in your life. It doesn't have to happen that way. Be wise about your inner circle. Another thing, a great test for this question is talk about the future. And what I mean by that is the friends that you have in your life, are they engaging with your future? Do they literally try to encourage you and champion you? You know, maybe you're in med school, or maybe you're in grad school, or maybe you're trying to get out of debt, and they're always like, how can I help? How can I help you study? Hey, let's not go out to eat tonight because I know you're trying to work on your budget. Are they the type of people that really care about the goals you have? They're the people that are champion the things that you're working towards. Or do they always make it about their present? Well, this is the way I feel. Or why don't you ever want to hang out? Or man, why can't you just, change your schedule around? Are they the type of people that genuinely care about your future? They want to talk about your future. They want to fight for your future. Or are they constantly bombarding you with their present? I would love for you to be able to answer that. I would love for you to think about that. You may have someone in mind right now as I'm saying that. Have people that care about the desired future that you're fighting for. They're worth your time. They're worth the people that you want to be doing life with. 2 more. Priority or afterthought. I don't mean to step on any toes there, but there's probably a chance there are some people in your life that are just calling on you as an afterthought. It's a Friday night and they're bored and they got nothing to do and they know that you're not doing anything, so they call you. But they probably tried 15 or 12 other people before you. Are you a priority to them, or are you an afterthought? You probably know the answer to that. You probably know the people who are taking advantage of your time or your money, your schedule, you name it. Hey, I need another place to crash on the couch tonight, or hey, can you drive me here? And they don't care about your schedule. They don't care about how it puts you out. They don't care about how it affects you. Are you a priority to them? If you're a priority to them, they say things like, how can I help? What can I do for you? Those are the type of friends we should be surrounding ourselves with. And if they're always the opposite of that, they're the type of friends that we're probably putting at arm's length. And this may be hard for you, but it's a wise thing to do. And the last one's a very general term, I just want to say, but I call it non-negotiables. There are a few universal non-negotiables when it comes to unfriending somebody. If you have a friend that has ever physically or sexually harmed you, do not continue to be friends with these people. I'm not saying you don't forgive them. I'm not even going down that emotional roller coaster, but they do not need to be in your daily life. They do not need to be in your home. If these people have brought you physical or sexual harm, they do not need to be what you call a friend. And for some reason, as a pastor, I have heard countless stories of people who continue friendships with people who have done things like that. And you know what it leads to? More pain. I'm telling you, you've got to cut these people loose. You say, hey, I can forgive you, but I don't have to do life with you. That's just wisdom. Maybe another one for you, or I think is a little bit more universal, is do they steal from you? Have you ever had someone steal from you? It's another thing. It's one thing if they were getting a cup of coffee and they accidentally took the mug and they forgot to bring it back. That happens. But I'm talking about they've stolen money from you. They've taken clothes from you. They've taken items from you. Do they steal from you? If that's normal in one of your relationships, you're going to need to probably put that one to an end as well. Friends don't steal from each other. I know that sounds so simple, but you'd be surprised the amount of times I've had conversations with people that try to justify why they did it. No, that is ludicrous. Do not do that. Do not let that be involved in your life. Another one I would say is, do they praise you publicly and critique you privately? Or do they do the opposite of that? Do they always make fun of you in public? Do they put you down in public? Do they embarrass you on social media? Do they use your name as a verb that's offensive? When I think of that, I think of how Andy in The Office tries to say, I shrewded it, and he's trying to make fun of Dwight as it's something that was totally ridiculous or something that was kind of dumb. Now, Andy wasn't a friend of Dwight's in that moment, but still, has someone ever done that to you? They ever used your name as a verb that's offensive? If you have someone that's always putting you down, no, you cut them loose. That's not a friend. You know what a friend does? A friend builds up. Friends do not tear down. If you have a friend that is always tearing you down, and I guess maybe it makes them feel better, you have the full right to let that person go, because it's not a friend. A friend will build you up. A friend will use their words to make your future better, not to make them feel good in the moment. And then the last one in regards to non-negotiables, I would say this. This is where it's a little bit different. There are some things to you that are off limits. There are some things to me that are off limits. If you make any kind of derogatory remarks, comments, or any type of actions toward my wife or any of the foster children I've ever had, it's a non-negotiable for me. My mother has a condition that leaves her in not a good physical state. She's in a lot of pain 24/7. I'm not a fan of mom jokes. If you make a mom joke to me and you're one of my close friends, that's not going to go over well because you know what my mom's going through. And if you don't know me and you randomly make that, I'll give you a warning shot. I really will. I'll say, hey, I don't tolerate mom jokes. My mom has a condition that leaves her in a lot of pain. You continue to do that, we're going to cut you off. We have non-negotiables that are unique to our story. You may be a victim of something and you don't find it funny people make those jokes. Good for you. Let your community know. And if they do things like this, and I don't like this phrase, oh, you know I'm just joking around. Yeah, well, you've said it 100 times. I don't think you're joking around anymore. I think you know it's a sore spot for me and you're intentionally doing it. Yeah, they probably are. You know some of your non-negotiables that are not normal for everyone else, and I want to challenge you. These are the type of things right here that you should be following in regards to not only the friends that you're choosing, but probably the friends that you need to be unfriending. It's not a bad thing. It's a hard thing. But at the end of the day, the future version of you and the future health of you and the things that hang in the balance are more important than making someone feel good in the moment. And I want to make sure that you're choosing those friends wisely. And I hope that you will, and I hope that you are. It doesn't make you a bad Christian. It doesn't make you a mean person. We all know that there are some people that are toxic. There are some people who actually need some help in some ways that they treat other people. And may we not always be on the receiving end of their anger or their frustration or their pain. May be willing to choose on how to go about this in a healthy way. So we've kind of landed the plane on this idea of community. We've talked about why we need community. There's a reason God created us the way we did. We talked about the role of the people that we're doing life with. We've talked about our role and how we treat them. And then lastly, we kind of talked about this idea of, do we know those boundary lines? Do we know what's out of bounds when people are hurting us to the point where we're going to have to probably break off some of those friendships? I truly believe if we will operate in these 4 things, these 4 weeks we've talked about, I think it changes the future. I think this generation leaves a bigger mark than it can even imagine right now. Because I think it's something that you will be healthy with that other people are not. And I hope it's what we'll become known for. I really appreciate you guys have been leaning in and engaging with us. It's been a really fun conversation in regards to community. And why we say conversation intentionally, because we hope that the little bit I've been able to tee up will lead you into conversations with other people. That's the hope and the goal of what we're doing. I would love to pray for you right now as we wrap things up in regards to this conversation on community. Father God, I thank you that you are a God that cares about our lives. And God, you have given us an unbelievable resources on how to be good friends and how to engage with our community and why we need community. God, it's boundless, the amount of things we can do in regards to community. But you're also a father, and a father cares about his children. And you do not want us to be habitually hurt or habitually taken advantage of. And so I pray for myself, I pray for those in the sound of my voice, those that are watching, that we will put boundaries in place that protect us, that we will have boundaries in place that prevent harm from coming to us. And may we have people in our lives that are the same way. And anytime one of those people, those persons can get in and try to take advantage of who we are, God, I pray that you'll give us the wisdom to forgive them. Love them like Jesus loved sinners. But we don't have to have a deep and meaningful relationship with them. I pray we can use wisdom in that. And it's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Guys, as we conclude this conversation about community, I hope that you're able to think about the idea that really boundaries are like friends themselves. They protect what is healthy and they point out what's harmful. As you go on from here, maybe talk in your home gatherings or just in your friendships as a whole, I hope that's something you can hold on to, because I know that we all have some stories of how people have hurt us, and I don't want that to continue to be your story. So I hope you'll put something in place, maybe a plan in place on how maybe to change that for your future. I want to thank you for joining us for this conversation. It has been a lot of fun engaging with you, whether you're at a home gathering or you're watching at your dorm room or your apartment. We have loved being able to engage with you these last few weeks. And here's a couple things I want you to know. If you'll go to the link below, you'll be able to find out more about us and what we're doing. You'll be able to see specifically the nights of our Metro Nights gatherings. We intentionally have these once a month gatherings that allow you to connect in community, meet some people, come for a time of worship, a lot of celebration. So I hope you'll be able to go to the link below and see that and find out more about us. I also want you to know that since we've made some changes to this year and some of the things we're doing, Instagram is a great way to stay up to date with us. Find out what's going on, maybe when content's coming out, or be able to take some next steps and get involved and see some stories. So I hope you'll follow us on Instagram at NMC Young Adults. We didn't change our name, so you can continue to follow us there, but it's a great way to stay up to date. I know I'm going to see you guys soon. We got a lot that's ahead, but thank you so much for choosing to lean in and engage with us on this first conversation on community.